I think we're on. All right. Yeah, we made it. Good morning, Susan. Good morning,
Good.
Christina. I think I'm in the middle, so we're like stacked on Zoom on my screen. So I think I'm in the middle. I don't know if I can. I don't know. So, good morning, everybody. Hopefully, it is. You can see this out in Facebook world. I have no idea what we look like on somebody's phone screen, but as you can see, we have two guests today with us, and they are both with Great Start to Quality, specifically our Northwest Resource Center. So maybe we can talk a little bit about why there's different Great Start to Qualities and what that means. And I know there's a lot more information that Susan and Christina might have to give us that we have time for today, so we'll just dive right into it. I'm Jean Favor, and I am a parent liaison with the Great Start Collaborative and Parent Coalition of Charlevoix, Emmett, and Northern Antrim County. And I'm here with Susan Chowan and Christina. I should have asked you how to pronounce your last name before I went live, but
That's
but
okay. It's
it,
Bika.
oh, thank you, Baitka. Christina Baitka and Susan are here with us today. And so, if you ladies want to maybe do brief introductions, tell us who you are, what your role is with Great Start to Quality, maybe how you work together in the areas, maybe where you're coming from right now, and what areas you serve. I know Susan and Christina both cover the same areas. Christina has a bit of a broader range, but I'm just gonna go with Susan because you're on top. So if you want to start and kick us off.
Yeah, I like being the top block. I can't wait to see this because it doesn't look like that right here. Hi, everybody. I am Susan Chowan. I work for the Great Start to Quality Northwest Resource Center covering Charlevoix, Emmett, and Antrim counties. So, in my role as a quality improvement coach, I work primarily with childcare providers, just helping them really to just meet goals that they've set for themselves. And we just have the overall mission of helping to improve the quality of childcare.
So, and when you say childcare, this is like we're being really intentional about the words we use, especially in our work. I know a lot of people are more familiar with talking about the places they send their children to, daycare centers, and their daycare providers. And so that's what you mean when you're talking about childcare. Anybody that's caring for a child, and the language is kind of shifting a bit. So families hearing childcare can kind of think in their brain daycare and move that forward.
We like to call it childcare, just putting the child at the front of that phrase. But yes, and really with Great Start to Quality, we're working primarily with licensed childcare programs or license exempt providers. So Christina can talk a little bit about what a license exempt provider is. But in my role, I'm working with primarily licensed programs. So anyone in a home-based licensed program that is licensed to care for anywhere from 6 to 12 kiddos, or a center-based program, which could look a variety of ways. It could be a licensed center serving infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and school-age kiddos. It could be a licensed center just serving school-age kids, or it could be a licensed center that serves primarily preschool.
That's a lot. Thanks,
Oh,
Susan. All right, Christina, welcome. Would you like to kind of
thank
fill
you.
us in on what you
Yes.
do?
Well, I cover the full 10 counties for a resource center, so the three that Susan covers, all the way down to Wexford, Misaki, all the way over to Manistee, and up to Leelanau. So we kind of make that square of northern Michigan. And I'm a community liaison, and so I work with license exempt providers, like Susan had mentioned. So any families that qualify for child care and development subsidy, which we will end up giving you an eligibility chart, can have a friend, family member, relative watch their children. If they're a relative in their home, if they're not a relative, it would have to be in the child's home. Um, and so we work with them for training and connecting them to resources and things of that nature. We know that childcare is hard to find in northern Michigan and actually all of Michigan right now. It's not a secret. I'm sure most parents sometimes have to pull their hair out if they are currently looking. Infant care makes us all a little bit crazy that there's just not enough. And so, yeah, and then I work on the Tri-Share program as well. So, which we'll hear more about.
Yeah, so that's a lot. So, Susan, you're working primarily with licensed providers and unlicensed. License exempt is what I'm saying. And Christina, you do exclusively license exempt, working to get families into those. Okay. See, because anybody watching this, I am totally new to the childcare arena. Besides what I know from other families, I've never had to use childcare other than myself and school and dad or whatever. So it's kind of a new world for me. So I probably have a lot of questions that um, make seem obvious to all y'all childcare professionals. So my biggest desire to have you on here today is to kind of talk about what you're offering to families, what you're offering to the community, how we can use you as a resource or use your programs as a resource, use your staff as a resource so that we can get childcare to more families, so that we can get families more educated about maybe what is a licensed child care center, not licensed child care center, exempt child care center, how do I find child care? So all those questions that some of them don't really have answers, but just opening that conversation and getting that information out there. So I don't know if there's a natural place to start. Maybe just great start to quality. What if I'm a mom or a dad or a somebody that's supporting a child and I'm trying to find childcare. What is Great Start to Quality going to do for me? Where do I go? What can I get from that? So I don't know if Susan, that's kind of your
Yeah,
area.
I think that is the perfect place for us to start, because I do find that families really aren't even aware that we have a website that lists literally every licensed program in the state of Michigan, and that is greatstarttoquality.org. So it's available 24/7 for families to visit, find programs in the area where they're looking for care or preschool. And you can access a list of all of those places. So we do encourage families to start there, just because sometimes they're not even aware of what's available in the community where they either live or work. And then, of course, we're here as Resource Center staff people to contact as well if they need additional assistance, or if they don't have internet access, or if they just have questions about where to start and how to do this. They can reach out to myself, to Christina, really to any of our staff, and we can just assist that family in trying to locate childcare that meets their needs.
So we're like in a Google age. So instead of being like asking, I could ask my friends like, hey, where do your kids go? Or do you know anybody that provides childcare? And I could Google like childcare in Northern Michigan, and I could find, like the Baby Cub Daycare Center. So, and I could contact them directly. So you're saying instead of like trying to piece out all these individual little places, there's a website that has them all listed, all the licensed providers listed, and these licensed providers are high quality, which is our Great Start to Quality. Our words there, trying to have really quality programs for your kiddos. And so I can be comfortable going on there that these are centers and home-based centers and home-based programs that are really going to be good for my kids.
Well, what you will find is that you for sure will get a list of all of those programs who are licensed. So it's important to use a licensed provider, just because you know that they have to meet certain health and safety requirements of childcare licensing. So it's handy to just get a list of all of those programs. And then the Great Start to Quality component is voluntary for those programs. So not every program chooses to participate for a variety of reasons. But if you do visit the website, you will see, if you go on, let's say you search, I'm looking for a program in Boyne City. That's where I live, that's where I work, that's where I would prefer care or preschool. So you can type Boyne City in, it will pull up the list of all of the licensed programs, and then you can see perhaps those that are participating in Great Start to Quality, they'll have a little star rating to the right of their program name. Again, it's voluntary to participate, so not every program will have a rating.
Okay, cool. So the licensing is like the first level I'm looking for. And then there's like a level beyond, which is we're participating in Great Start to Quality. And then what does that mean? Like staff have requirements for education and training, and there's additional health care or health requirements, safety requirements. What would I prefer to do Great Start to Quality?
Sure, that's a great question. So the difference would be that those programs that choose to participate in Great Start to Quality primarily do it because of their dedication to high quality. They go beyond the health and safety mandated requirements of licensing, and then start to look at staff qualifications, their environment, the administration of their program, curriculum, assessment, screening, all types of categories beyond those health and safety requirements.
So is that going to cost me a lot more?
It doesn't cost anything to participate
Okay.
for a program.
Okay.
As far as the family, it wouldn't impact the rate at all. It's just a choice of that program or provider to participate, but
Okay.
it's not based on tuition.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting and really great information to have. And so those are all licensed providers on that website. And I don't know now if I just want to scoot down to Christina, because I keep thinking about you mentioning license exempt providers. And I'm like, well, if, if licensed is the best, is my base level, and then Great Start to Quality participants. So now I'm like, well, what is this license exempt provider option that I might have?
Yes. So families that need assistance paying for childcare can go through DHHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, to apply for a child care and development subsidy. That is whether they're receiving other benefits from DHHS, or if they just want to stand alone try to get child care. And Susan, if there's something that has changed, let me know. But if they do qualify, it is an income qualification, then they can choose a friend or a family member to watch their children, and then they would get reimbursed by the state, which is why they're called license exempt. So they are not fully licensed by the state, but they have to go through health and safety classes, and they have to have a visit or an interview, and then they could be approved as their specific provider. That does not mean they can take care of multiple families' children like a licensed provider can. So it's a little bit different situation, and we can pop that income eligibility chart over to you, Jean.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a whole new kind of ball game. There's so many different options, and it sounds like it can get a little bit complicated when you're a family trying to navigate through when you're looking for somebody. But that seems like a really great option if you have somebody willing to go through that process of the home visit and the check and the basic requirements to get your kiddo license exempt, but still qualities and paid. So I'm just going to run through a scenario. Like, I have a grandma, let's say, or I'll just say a grandma, who's willing to watch my kiddo, but can't do it for free. So, because that takes time. So if she's willing to go through a process with the state, she can get a license exempt status, and then I can pay her with a child development subsidy. Okay.
I think it's important just to mention too, so families that qualify for child care assistance, and more families are qualifying now because they have broadened those eligibility requirements, can choose to use licensed child care, or there is an option to go with a license exempt provider. And a lot of families don't realize that that's a thing. So oftentimes we know that grandma's watching kiddos, or my neighbor watches my kiddos, or I have a friend that's helping me out, because trying to find availability in licensed programs right now is so tough. So these people are out there watching kids anyway. Well, if the family qualifies for child care assistance, then that person is going to be able to receive an hourly wage from the state and wouldn't have to do it for free. So, I mean, it's a good option for those scenarios where this is already occurring. I mean, you can come through as the provider. It's a, fingerprint background check, obviously, just to make sure. Mm-hmm. And then a 7-hour class that a lot of times is virtual. We do it face to face in Traverse City. But the requirements really are fairly minimal for the provider themselves.
But it's providing that, which is more than would have been provided otherwise. I mean, like, going 0-hour classes is less than 7 hours of classwork, and just feeling like you're part of the system, and like realizing how important that job is to watch this kiddo. Like, we're going to give you even some training on this, and some make sure you're going to pass the muster here. So
right.
And Jean, you also get a full CPR training course in your 7 hours of training. So you leave with CPR certification for infants and adults. So that's just another thing to keep our kiddos safe.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's more than I didn't know all that existed. So when thinking through the process again, because it's complicated. When I go to the greatstarttoquality.com, .org, thought so. It'll show me that list of licensed childcare providers. Where do I go if I want to learn about getting this license exempt status, or the CDC, the child
care and development subsidy.
Yes. So I go through DHS through that, even if I'm not currently signed up with any other services.
Actually, to keep it super simple, you can go to greatstarttoquality.org, and there is a tab for license exempt providers as well.
That's what I want. Super simple is really what I want.
Stop shop. That's what we need.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Christina, you mentioned also in other ways of like making things affordable for families and making sure people get paid for the work they're doing. Briefly at the beginning, you mentioned TriShare. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on what that is, or how long that's been around, or how we can use that.
Yeah. TriShare, you'll start hearing more and more about. The legislature approved TriShare, which is a cost-sharing childcare program for employers, employees, and the state. So it is a third if an employer participates. So we are the United Way of Northwest Michigan, who Susan and I work for, under Great Start to Quality, is the facilitator hub for Northwest Michigan. The same 10 counties that we cover with the Resource Center are covered by TriShare. And so if an employer chooses to participate, it's a benefit they can offer to their employees. Once that happens, it is above the CDC or the Child Care Development Subsidy, the income range. And like a family of 4 with that can go up to $90,000 and qualify. So it gives a lot more. So if one doesn't work for you, the other may, but the employer does have to participate. And we are pursuing employers in all 10 counties to try and get more steam behind the program. It just was converted into an ongoing pilot. It was a pilot. So I think employers were a little bit more hesitant at that point because they did not know if the state was going to continue the program. And we have found out that they are. So we're super excited about that, and we hope that that will help families.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I would potentially, if I worked for an employer that supported this, which is something I could advocate for as an employee or whatever, I would potentially just be paying a third of the cost of my childcare.
Yes.
Okay, so that's great because it's not cheap.
No. We find that it's a benefit for an employee of about $3,000 a year. Awesome. So it's direct income back into your household, and it makes a lot of sense, and hopefully it will help that stability of our industry, and maybe help us expand, get more childcare, licensed childcare open and ready to do this.
Very cool. So I'm thinking back about, just in my brain, like how much this is worth for me. So a third, if TriShare happened, that's a third of the cost of childcare. How much is a subsidy generally provide for families? Is that in like a an hourly rate that the providers get subsidized? How does that? Does it depend on income? How much subsidy you get?
Susan, you take that one, please.
Yeah, so it is an hourly reimbursement. And so there's several different factors in there. It depends on the age of the child. The younger are reimbursed at a higher rate. It would depend on if you're using licensed childcare programming or licensed exempt, because those would be two different rates as well. It would also depend on whether that licensed program is participating in Great Start to Quality. So there's different reimbursement rates pending the quality level. So if you are currently in a licensed program participating in Great Start to Quality at a 2-star level, and you have a 2.5-year-old, you would get one kind of base rate.
Okay.
If you are in a licensed program not participating in Great Start to Quality and you have an infant, that is a different rate. So a few different factors would come into play there.
And I would find out how much once I apply, basically. Is that kind of...
Yes,
what
or
happens?
you can always go to the website that we can include for everybody and just see the chart.
Okay.
I mean, there's a chart that exists on the CDC website that you could kind of like look to see where you would fall on the chart and what that reimbursement rate would be.
Awesome. So I'm basically like, my takeaway is if I'm looking for childcare, my best bet is to go to greatstarttoquality.org, get this list of licensed childcare providers, and if nothing there works out, I can explore the license exempt providers perhaps. And for any and all of that, I might as well see if I qualify for a childcare subsidy. And there's a link to that on the greatstarttoquality.org website.
Yes, all of the above, true and correct. You
Okay.
can always contact our Resource Center staff as well, and we'll make sure that the toll-free number is included. And you can call the toll-free number. It gets filtered out to whoever in the area covers that territory, and we can help assist with all of this too.
And so I might talk to you, Susan, if I did that. And if I'm going a license exempt route, I might talk to Christina if I did that. Is that? And there are other.
Talk to any of us, and we'll all help you do whatever it is you need.
Because there are more of you that work with Great Start to Quality, providing quality improvements, and depending on age range and everything. So there's quite a few people. It's not just you two in the Great Start to Quality Northwest Resource Center doing all this work.
We have a whole staff that covers our 10-county area, and just for any families that might, go outside of our Northwest region, there are 10 resource centers in the state of Michigan. So this, resource and support is available throughout the state of Michigan, just so everybody's aware. You have a resource center anywhere you go in Michigan.
Just like everybody has a Great Start Collaborative and Parent Coalition.
There you go.
And we don't even always know that there they are working behind the scenes.
Yes.
Join us. Excellent. What else have I forgotten or missed? What questions did I not ask? What do you want to make sure we say before we kind of sign off?
I think you covered it well, Jean. I think we kind of got the messaging about the Resource Center and services out. If you absolutely, do not find what you're looking for, don't hesitate to contact us on our number is 877-614-7328. And I sent that over to you, Jean, to throw in the comments.
All right.
But we will personally help too. We do keep spreadsheets of parents looking for care. When we hear of options in specific areas, we email, we try and touch base. We want to be helpful as we can be, but we may run into the same dead ends. But we're here to help. We're here to be a resource, just like the Great Start Collaborative.
Sounds perfect. Susan, any last parting thoughts?
I don't think so. I
Besides,
just want everyone aware. What's that?
I was going to say, besides, how great my hair is today or whatever.
You were having a good hair day.
No, hence the headband. What do you want people to be aware of?
the website, visit greatstarttoquality.org. There's a ton of information on there. There's a ton of links to other resources, contact information. Christina and I are on there with our direct lines as well. So just remember greatstarttoquality.org. You can find us, you can connect with us, and then we'll help get you whatever assistance we can.
Awesome. That was a lot of information, and I really appreciate you both making time to come out on Friday morning before a long holiday. Hopefully, we can all enjoy this weekend a little bit and carry on into the new year. I say new year because it's like it's school. It's not actually a new year, y'all, but I feel like it's my new year.
You're not supposed to have cocktails in the morning before Facebook Live.
New school year.
Right.
Yeah,
it's transition time for sure.
Transition time. All right, everybody, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you in a couple weeks for another Great Start Live. And everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jean.